Hello and welcome to the Marketing Mix. I'm really excited to have someone who from my community, from my the Marketing Morsel community, with us today. We're going to talk about fonts. I've been on Angie's list for a few months now, and every month she sends out a newsletter on the last Friday of every month called Font Love and Other Designery Things, and it's really worth signing up for. So, Anja, please tell us a little bit about yourself and your business.
Hi, Manal. Thank you for having me too, because I'm really excited to be here. And thank you. I really appreciate you having me. I'm Ange. I'm a designer, graphic designer based in East London. And I've been designing for over, oh gosh, I hate saying it when I say it, but it's about 30 years and freelancing for the last 11. Yeah, that's how old I am.
You're not old. You started when you were 10.
Thank you. I work with corporates, charities, freelancers. So I work with quite a lot of industries and different sectors. I started off designing in print, and obviously that's moved over to digital over the last few years. Well, yeah. So yeah, that's me. And I've got a business called Lyons Creative, and that's what I started 11 years ago.
Amazing. We'll just say hi to Mel.
Oh, hi, Mel.
Cool. So like I said, I think I've been getting your newsletter for a few months now, and I love how you pull out different fonts every time. You have a sort of spotlight font. So, but can you tell us what the difference is between fonts and typeface, or is there one?
Yes, there is. I mean, the names, I'd say. So yeah. So thank you for subscribing, by the way, and I love so thank you. So a typeface is the family of fonts, as I say. So it'd be like the overall umbrella of the actual font, because fonts actually come under different weights. So it'd be thin, medium, it's italics. So for example, like Helvetica, that's the main family font. But you'd have Helvetica Light, you'll have Helvetica Bold, thin, heavy, ultra heavy. So that's the actual font.
Yeah.
The actual weight of it in the design. But the overall actually font typeface is called the actual family is the
so it's like the typeface is the set, and then the fonts
so it's the set. Yes, so the fonts are actually the individual ones. Yeah, I know, because I could have called it Typeface Friday and other designer things, but it wouldn't fit it in with my.
No, I love the font.
Thing.
Yeah. So, very well.
Yeah.
It's very creative.
I know people do ask me that. What's the difference between the font and the typeface? I feel like I need to write a joke about that somewhere, but
I think you do. I don't know what that would be. I'm not very good.
I'm going to work on that one. Maybe the next newsletter.
So why does it matter what fonts we choose?
For our brands, for companies' brands, I'd say identity, being consistent, so people recognize you. I think if you kept on chopping and changing, people, I think, wouldn't know where you were. And I think that brand font just gives you visual identity, shall we say, as well as your logo, if you have one. And some companies don't even have a logo; they'll just use a typeface for their logo.
Yeah. And so, what's the thing that you want to think about when you are picking a font for your sort of visual identity?
I'd say you'd have to think about your story of what you're trying to sell in your product or in your designs. Say, for example, you're designing a book, you're not going to typeset it all in, I don't know, for example, like Courier. Oh, you might do Courier. Or you might not, you're not going to typeset it in a medieval font, for example. You're going to typeset it for legibility. You're going to typeset it for, use it for a personality. If you're designing a poster, for example, you're not going to put big scripty fonts on a poster that nobody can read, for example. So it's I'd say it's for personality and for telling a story.
So, like for brands, do you think a font can tell a? Can it have a personality? Can it fit the brand personality?
Yeah, I'd say so, definitely. I mean, for example, if you saw, like the other day, I was in Turkey, actually, funny enough. I saw a font that they'd used the Netflix font and they'd spelled out something else. And I know that had a personality of Netflix, because it was like, it follows the kind of the widescreen of a cinema screen. Do you remember? Those old logos, the widescreen. And that's what Netflix reminds me of. So that's got a personality in itself. But he'd used it for a bar in somewhere in Turkey.
Ooh.
It was like, obviously that's plagiarism, you shouldn't be doing that.
I was going to say, is that allowed?
Yes, that is not allowed because that's Netflix typeface, but they're not going to.
I'm sure they
Yeah,
copyrighted it.
exactly. I've seen companies. I do take photographs of them if I see them, but I took a photograph of that one. I think I might put it in my next newsletter. But there's a shop in South London, and it's got the sign of the Selfridges sign. Again, that's iconic. It's on a yellow background with the big bold type, a display type, and they were selling fridges, and their typeface said Selfridges.
Yeah.
So instantly I thought, oh, that's Selfridges. And I thought, no, that's not. That's Selfridges. But do you see what I mean? It gave me the impression.
The connection,
The connection that the brand is so important in the design.
I saw a post this week. I saw it because Bhavani liked it, about Johnson & Johnson. I think they've changed their
I haven't seen that yet.
Like, because it used to have that really nice scripty writing, and now it's sucked all the life out of it.
Yeah, so that scripty writing makes you feel, well, to me, it makes me think of babies, and it made me think of like being young and the cotton wool buds and then all the shampoos. And it's scripty, but it's friendly. I mean, even going down your brand, Manil, it's like you've got the word marketing, which to me, it looks very serious because it's in the sans serif and it's just like at the top. And then you've got the script handwriting underneath, which makes me think friendly, which you are. So it's marketing by Manil. I love your logo. So again, it's typeface. But yeah.
So we've talked about posters. You said you wouldn't use a big, scripty font for a poster. Let's talk about the world of digital, because we all operate in the digital world. And what kind of fonts should we be thinking about for using in stuff that we put online?
I'd say it's legibility, definitely, and accessibility. And that also comes down to, as well as the fonts, as well as colours that you use. So, for example, if you're using so for example, you're using blue on yellow, that's really hard to read. So you wouldn't really have that as a big block color fonts, and they're not there. But if you're using I was going to say Google Fonts. That's what I was going to say. Yeah. Google Fonts is a really good website for to find fonts that you can pair up with, as well as see what examples are. And digital, you can download them. So make sure it's from a reputable site. Don't just. I've seen lots of font sites out there that have loads of ads down the side. Just be careful when you download them. So digital wise, I'd say, because then they have loads of pop-ups that say download, and you don't actually know you're downloading the font. So just be careful of those. So go to a reputable site. Go to, dare I say, Canva. They're really good for using your fonts, and Adobe fonts and Google fonts. And when you download them, you get the whole family, and they should give you the whole family. Yeah. So digital wise, as long as it can fit onto your system, I'd say use that, because it's easy enough, and it's easy enough for you to actually start working from.
And I guess, like you said, Canva, I guess if you haven't got any brand fonts, you can go onto Canva, and because they do some quite nice pairings, don't they?
I've seen that. I think even if you type in Google type into Google font pairings, it's funny, the Canva blog always pops up, and it's just it just gives you some examples. It's funny talking about fonts, you really want to see them, because but that's why I always think, like, it'd be hard to do a podcast on fonts because you want to see them. But
I'm sure you could get people into a place where they can see them from the podcast. But it's interesting. Sorry, go on.
Oh no, I was going to say, digital wise, it's interesting over the years how it's changed, because years ago, and when I first started in print, it was really hard to like get fonts onto your system, or you'd have to buy them from a certain foundry, and and it get expensive, and then allowed to swap them out with other people, which you shouldn't do, because you should buy the font itself. And that's another thing, actually, I wanted to say, that if people do download fonts, make sure you've got the right licenses for personal or commercial use. Even though Google say you can download them, just double check the licenses, because you don't want to get caught in trouble using a font, especially if you've imported it into something and they catch you. Or the font library catched you, because they have crawlers out there.
I mean, I learned to type on a typewriter.
So
my age, and learned how how to word process
Oh, the
on
WordPress.
WordPerfect
Yeah.
5.1. Do you remember that?
Yep.
And the font we all used to use was Times New Roman.
Times New Roman. It's still going.
Is
That was
it?
literally. It's still going, and you know what? It was designed for the Times newspaper. It's a classic. So it literally was designed for the newspaper. So
Oh,
it's still going, and people still use it. And I think Garamond is still used.
Garamond, yeah.
Garamond is used loads for typesetting books. So and it's still today. So
And that, I guess I'm just trying to think about the last actual physical book that I read, and I can't remember whether it was a serif or a sans serif, because that makes a difference. And just for people who are watching, what is the difference between a
yeah, I was
serif
going to say.
and a sans serif?
What serif font is the bits. What's the font with the bits on the end? That's the best way to explain it. So each letter has little bits on the ends of the. That's what the serif is, and sans means without in French. So it's sans serif. So it hasn't. So they're the bits without the bits, and there's So I suppose there's another type. So they're the main 4 sets of fonts that you'd get are serif, sans serif, display, and script. So script will be like, like you have in like wedding fonts.
Oh yeah.
When you have like that big swirly, scripty writing that's really decorative.
Like calligraphy, not quite
calligraphy. Yeah, exactly like that. Yeah. So that's script, but yeah.
And I just, well, you can see if you look in the top left-hand corner, you can see an example of serif and, I guess, script. And our names are in sans serif.
Oh, our names are in sans serif, yeah. So the marketing is in serif, and our names are in sans serif, yeah. And I suppose your mix is a display stroke script font, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm guessing that the serif fonts are good for print, or would you not?
Either. I'd say either. I mean, for book-wise, I mean, and I've seen a lot of business books that would maybe use a sans serif because it's really clear and they can space it out. But I'd say if you're reading a novel, I'd say that's in a sans serif, and that they mostly would have said it in a serif font. Sorry.
Okay. So for all those budding authors out there, they can start thinking about. I guess they don't have to think about that. I guess they've got
I suppose
and stuff.
Okay. Exactly. But again, you want to choose the typeface for the front cover, and so.
Oh, how would you design it? Like, what would be your favourite font for a front cover?
Oh my gosh, I don't know. I'd have to do lots of research. It depends on the book too.
Yeah.
It depends what it's about.
What if it was your life story?
Oh my god, that would be like a real mix of fonts. Can you imagine? Oh, I don't know. I think I'd like something quite decorative. It has to be definitely colourful. I'd have a mix of script and sans serif and serif and display. I'd have everything. I couldn't choose. I'm indecisive. And do you know what? That's the worst part of my projects when I do. Bit I love, but worse because I'm just like, will this work or that work? So when I send stuff out to clients, I normally give them quite a few examples because I just can't decide.
It's not. I mean, it's quite nice to have choices because, like, for me, where if I was send out, like, have someone to do that work for me, it's difficult I'm not one of those. I'm not very good at visualizing things. Like, I know in my head what I want. But if somebody were to take that and say to me, well, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this, I'd have real problems visualizing it. So I prefer to have something in front of me that I can see. So having some choices is a good thing.
Yeah.
So we've talked a little bit about why you should have brand fonts, but what difference do you think having brand fonts makes to your communications, and like how should people standardize what they do?
Well, first of all, I think once they've decided on their fonts and what they're going to use, or their typefaces, what they're going to use, definitely have a set of brand guidelines so that can
Yeah.
be put across to other people if they've picked it up, say, for example,
Yeah.
for social media posts or for presentations. So standardize. I know it sounds boring that you want to standardize, but you can throw in something every now and again just to
Yeah.
add to the mix. But I'd say just again for consistency and just for people to recognize you.
Yeah.
Just to have the same fonts, but again, put it in a set of documents, just simple. Doesn't
Yeah.
have to be a massive document, just PDF 5 pages long even. Just tell people about your fonts, your tone of voice, your colors, and tell them what weights of fonts that they should use, and also where they can get the fonts, because that's another thing I think people forget about. You can't just pass on fonts just like that, because somebody had to design that, so you've got to pay the foundry, unless they got it for free somewhere. Again, check the licenses. So yeah, I definitely say that'd be one thing to definitely check.
So when you said you could sometimes throw something into the mix there, what would you do for me? Like, because I just use I've got the marketing bit written in
what are you using?
Noto Serif. And then the sans serif is Roboto, and I've forgotten what the mix font
is. Mix, is it like it's like a handwriting font of some sort?
Yeah, I think I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I'd pick something playful for you. I think I'd go, yeah, playful and elegant, I'd say.
I'm not sure I'd call myself elegant, but there you go.
I think so. I think something playful and elegant. Oh, I found something. Can I show you? Because I love this magazine.
Yeah,
it's called Type 1, and it's just gorgeous. It's quite thick and substantial, but it's one of those magazines that they've just got hundreds of fonts. So I think I'd love something like this for you, just to throw into the mix. Can you see it?
Paradise. I love those flowers. I think they're so.
Look at the R on the bird and paradise, and the S. It just reminds me of something floral and just flowery, and again they've used the image to tie in the font to tie in with the image. So I'd say something like this for you, just every now and again, just add that into the mix.
Those flowers they just say to me sunshine.
Holiday. Yeah.
Oh, Mel said the mix looks a bit like Mixer font on Canva. I'm not sure that it's that, but I'll have a look later. I can't remember what it is.
Okay.
Gosh, someone who knows fonts, what they are on Canva. That's like me recognizing what people have used to do their newsletters.
I know. Do you know what? I was at a conference I went to the Digital Women conference on Friday, and I was just looking at everyone's slides going, what was that font there? And then, what's this one? And why has this one used that type of font? And why she used it with that pairing? It was just like, and I actually took photographs just to for my little
Do you know, I had, when we went you were at the startup show, weren't you?
Enterprise Nation. Yeah.
And I was speaking to Bhavani about, we'd come out of, I don't think you'd been to this presentation. We'd come out of one presentation and I said to her, did you see the state of those slides? She was like, I know. Like, oh my God, there's such a piece of education that needs to happen, because it's just like, when you get the opportunity to stand in front of a room full of people, I know they're listening to you, but also you want what they're seeing to represent
you want it
as well.
Exactly.
And I'm not obviously not a designer, but I spend a lot of time on my slides trying to make them consistent with everything else.
Yeah, and you want them to look good too, don't you? Because you care about that. So
in the way that I want people to think, well, they look good, so her work must be good.
Yeah, exactly. You know? Yeah.
So I think it's really important that what you do to help people look and feel the same across everything is, and I'm quite.
I think, but it's good like we're doing things like this so people can be aware of it. But you'd be amazed that some people haven't got a clue of what's out there or wouldn't know what's clue. They'll just turn on the computers and they'll just open PowerPoint and they'll just start playing around with some of the fonts in there and doing some transitional effects or whatever they do with that. But because they don't know any different, so it's good to talk about it and do again live like this.
Actually, someone said to me that creating slides in Canva is, like, she only does her presentations in Canva now. I mean, I'm proper old school Microsoft.
Are you still using PowerPoint?
Yeah, I'm so bad because I've used Microsoft my entire career, and I find it difficult to move away from there. But yeah, so
I reckon if you set it up, you'll use it again. You'll just keep on using it in Canva again.
I'll give it a go for something.
There are other social media platform creators out there like Adobe Express. Not that I'm an advocate, but I'm just saying.
I know. I'm such a, like, for me, and I know you like Canva, and I know you use you use proper graphic designer tools, but for me, it's such a leveler in terms of being able to do things for myself, and make things that look half decent, because I don't have a lot of budget, so I wouldn't be able to ask you to do everything for me. But the things that are out of my reach, so if I were going to design a brochure, I'd absolutely outsource that. That's not my skill set. But I think it's a real leveler in terms of
I think marketing a business for you, yeah, exactly, it's definitely
yeah. So what are your favorite font pairings? Do you have any ones that you go back to again and again?
I really wanted to make a joke and say Courier. Courier and Arial.
Oh my god, do you remember Courier? Oh god, that properly looked like as if it was done on a typewriter, didn't it?
Yeah. And what else is there? I quite like that font actually. Sometimes it's quite good. It's a bit nostalgia. So again, if you're doing something nostalgic, you can put in the Courier font in there.
Yeah, why not? Why not? I do like Arial though, because it's just so easy to read.
It's simple, it's easy, and it's legible. That's another thing, and people can read it really easily.
Especially nowadays when people are skim reading, because there's so much information out there. Go on, tell us your favourites.
All right, so at the moment, for my own branding, I use for my social media slides, because I can't get what I really want on this because I have to pay for lots of it. But it's Playfair. I really like Playfair. So it's like a mix between, I think, like Times New Roman and Garamond, and it's really just quite elegant. I like the sans serif part of that, and the sans serif I use Lato. I like that pairing, and I've used that for a few publications, and it works really well. And it's just consistent, and I use it in my own social media. So
yeah. So if somebody was going to pick a pairing, what would they have to think about? Like, if they don't go in and go, again, Canva, other things are available, but if they go into Canva,
they don't go into there. And they were coming to me to ask me, I would say to them, I would have to ask them to explain what their product is, or what their service is, or what are they trying to do with them. If it's their own business, you have to get the story behind them first. I want to know a bit more about them. I want to know what they do, what they're selling, who they're talking to, and then I'd go and have an idea of what fonts in my head, if it's to use serif fonts or sans serif fonts, or even display fonts, because if it's just for their own, like for example, a logo or headline, you can use a display font, because you're only going to use that in one point. Like my own brand, I've used just a little plug in there, Goku, for the Lyons part, where it's in different colors, whereas I wouldn't use that as a body font because it's too decorative. It just gets too confusing for people. Again, I think you've got to think about accessibility and how people are reading things to dyslexic people. I don't know, we always joke about Comic Sans, and it gets a bad rap. I know, it's just but it's one of the best fonts for school children and dyslexic people. Even though it gets a bad rap, but there are designers out there doing really good things especially for school children. Another person that I follow is a guy called Jamie, and he designed a font called Side Note, and I know that font has been used for school textbooks, so that's really good. So again, and it's a cross between, he's going to hate me for saying this, but it's a cross between Courier and I'd say like Arial. So it's not got the curly bits. So it's a sans serif. So it's got none of the serifs, because dyslexic people and children find that really hard to read, because it's got too much information and they can't process it. So something straight as possible. Even the
Yeah.
A, even down to an A in that font, you have to think about, because you don't want anything that, you know, the bit the ascender on an A, sometimes you get in fonts, you want it to be a straight A. So you have to think about these things. So again, if I was going to choose a font pairing, you'd have to tell me a little bit more about your story and where it's going to be.
And I think with Comic Sans, it's because it's one of the only fonts that where the A is written how people learn to write.
Yes, exactly.
Rather than that,
the bit on the ascender.
I'm not doing it quite.
Sorry, it's called the ascender. It's called the technical term, the ascender.
The ascender.
So you know, there's a descender. So you know, some Fs have the swirly bit at the bottom.
Okay.
Whereas Comic Sans doesn't have the swirly bits. That's the descender.
Ah.
Yeah.
Oh, Mel has said, I think Sassoon gets loads of views.
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to
it does. Yeah, it does now.
To me, that's hair products.
Not Vidal Sassoon. But again, even just thinking about Vidal Sassoon, I'm thinking about the logo and the
text. Yeah. I think it's interesting because there are specific things that we associate with specific, you know, particular companies. Like you've mentioned Netflix already, and the Cell fridges. But like, if I said to you a yellow M,
exactly,
you know, you'd immediately think of McDonald's because that it's just been associated with them. So it makes a massive difference. It's not something that you just pick on the fly. You have to consider this because it should run across all your marketing.
All your marketing, definitely.
When people see it, they should recognise it for you.
Yeah.
Not that I'm ever going to be as big as.
No, but the thing is, we know you're purple. The thing is, I've met you before, and you've worn purple, and I know that's you. So again, you know, so it's one of those things where even if you talk about your slides and your presentation, put your logo and your typeface and your logo on the presentation. Absolutely. People start remembering you.
Yeah, and it's funny because when I started, I only had the purple and green, and then a couple of years ago, Bethany worked on a little mini rebrand, and she introduced a secondary color palette and standardized the logo, the font, and as I started putting things out in the secondary palette, people were like, "Have you got rid of the purple?" I'm like, no, I haven't.
Isn't that funny? You see, so you see people been following you, so consistency.
Yeah. So I have to make sure that I put the purple in and the green in somewhere so that it, and that they're used kind of together, and I'm not straying too far with the other colours. So I've got a little document that says, right, you're gonna use this colour for this. So I've got a pink. Actually, you can see the pink there.
I can see it.
Yeah. That pink is. I always put my testimonials in that colour because I think it stands out.
Yeah.
And then if I've got a dark green, so if I am doing like inspirational quotes, it'll be in that dark green because I think that looks nice. So it's good to have that consistency.
Yeah.
We are almost out of time, people.
No, really?
It's so much fun. We had a bit of a giggle. I've loved learning about fonts. But listen, if you're watching and you want to know more about what Ange does, please do connect with her on LinkedIn. I've just popped her the link to her profile in the comments. And sign up for Font Love Friday because it's a fun newsletter and it's got lots of her personality in it. And the thing that I always think is like, okay, which font is she going to pick? And what's the fact that she's going to tell me about this font?
That's brilliant.
So it is definitely worth signing up for. And if you are not on my email list, please do sign up for that. It's the Marketing Morsel. It's a really short email that comes out every Tuesday. But outside of the email, you also get things like access to a private Facebook group, member-only webinars, and a bunch of other stuff. So have a look at that. And I'm going to be back in 2 weeks' time with a lady called Liesel, and she is a food photographer. And she's going to be talking about how to take good food photography for your own business. But hopefully she'll be able to give you details about things that are, we're going into the run up for Christmas. So how to take good product photos of your food products in the run up to Christmas. So join us in 2 weeks' time. Until then, take care, everybody.
Thanks, Manel. Bye, everyone.